Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Creation Watch, where we take a look at some wild creation concepts from flat Earth to young Earth to hollow Earth. Sometimes that overlaps with CryptoCorner a bit, but today we are going to be looking at some zany beliefs of another group, one that we haven't ever covered on this show before. A group with some wild alternative history under their belt. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, then I want to introduce you to the city of Zarahemla. I guess is how you would say it. Let me see here. Yeah, here is... This is from the Mormon wiki itself. This is their own wiki. I want to tell you what Zarahemla is, okay? Zarahemla was the name of a major Nephite city as recorded in the Book of Mormon, part of the official canon of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint. The city of Zarahemla, you want to say Helma, Zarahemla. I want to say Helma, but I love this pink too. Thank you. Let's see. Where was I? The Book of Mormon explains how Mosiah came to this land and was later made king. For behold, he, Mosiah, being warned of the Lord that he should flee out of the land of Nephi, and as many as would hearken unto the voice of the Lord should go also, depart out of the land with him into the wilderness. And it came to pass that he did according as the Lord had commanded him. And they departed out of the land and into the wilderness until they came upon the land which is called the land of Zarahemla. And they discovered a people who were called the people of Zarahemla. Now there was great rejoicing among the people of Zarahemla, and also Zarahemla did rejoice exceedingly, because the Lord had sent the people of Mosiah with the plates of brass which contained the record of the Jews. So you know the plates that Joseph Smith had in the hat and all that. That's what we're talking about. These were in this city. So let's keep reading, because this is getting weird, right? There's a big city in North America or South America, somewhere in the Matt Powell style wilderness. That was my Matt Powell. See the air quotes? Took it full circle. You wondered why I used that intro. Wilderness. I don't know what that means. Is the trek that they're supposed to have made over the Bering Strait, like what we see in the fossil record? Let's read on. The people of Zarahemla had come from the land of Jerusalem under the leadership of Mulek, and the only surviving son of King Zedekiah. The people of Zarahemla are thus often referred to as Mulekites. The Nephites, I think it's Nephites is how you say that. It might be Nephites, but if it's wrong, I'm saying Nephites, because that's how I think I've always heard it said. Okay, the Nephites taught the Mulekites their language and united to become one people, appointing Mosiah to be their king, of course. So, presumably, these are supposed to be indigenous people. So, like Native Americans that took, they have to take the white guy as king, right? That's how you do it. That's how you colonize. Unfortunately, he doesn't seem that I don't know if all the people of that King Zedekiah gathered together were sterile, or what? Because they didn't leave any traces in their genome behind with the Native American people, right? They didn't leave any of their offspring. So how they just ruled until that generation died, and that was it, I guess, because yeah, there is no matching haplogroup for Semitic people in the upper plains of North America in ancient times. It's just not a thing that exists. I don't know. All right. So, although it was at the heart of the Nephite world, Zarahemla was not always a righteous city. Many books of Mormon prophets are recorded chastening the people of Zarahemla. When Christ was crucified in the old world, earthquakes and storms shook the Americas. During this time, Zarahemla caught fire and was destroyed. It was rebuilt later and became a large city. The city existed about 500 years. What eventually became of it and its inhabitants is not mentioned in the Book of Mormon. The location of Zarahemla is also not known, and the church does not give any official statements about where it may be, though many members speculate about where it might have been. So this is the topic of discussion for today. Where was Zarahemla? Let's read on, because are you interested in knowing where this ancient, very real city of Zarahemla that was totally not made up by Joseph Smith, who didn't understand the genealogical history of indigenous peoples and adhered to the then popular notion that the Native Americans were members of the lost tribes of Israel, which was popular in the mid to late 1800s. What do you think? What do you think is more likely? This is a very real city that actually existed, or based upon perhaps maybe some traveler's tales that our friend Joseph Smith had heard about people traveling west and finding lost cities, putting that together with his idea of the lost tribes of Israel coming to North America and forming their own nations and all that jazz that made up the native populations in the ruined cities. Because it's weird that I have to go back this far, but when earliest explorers, when Columbus and then some conquistadors and people, searching for gold and stuff, when they came to North America and South America as explorers and interacted with people, they didn't set up settlements in these or colonies or anything in these areas. Like they knew that there was, they were conquered islands and things like that. Columbus had taken, Espanola or whatever for Portugal. Was it? No, it was Spain. He took it for Spain. That's right. And that was a hub. But the other regions of South America and North America where these, at the time, empires were basically in place. They didn't even get contacted with those people. They knew about them and kind of, I think they had made brief contact with them. They didn't have to trade with them, and they came, and then about 80 to 100 years later, when settlers decided to come, these indigenous populations had just died. Not only had they died, but their cities were kind of taken back by the jungle, right? Or taken back by Gaia, and swallowed up. That's where you get legends like the lost city of El Dorado and things like that. And I know lost cities generally pique my interest, which is why this one specifically. So thank you again, Johnster Monster, for sharing this with me. Yeah, Zarahemla is basically it's not pulled out. He didn't pull out of his arse though. He pulled it out of a hat, a hat full of golden plates apparently. Okay, during the life of Joseph Smith, the name Zarahemla was revitalized as commanded in Doctrine and Covenants 125. See the verses below. In May 1839, Zarahemla became a small settlement in Lee County, Iowa, about 1 mile west of the Mississippi. Not far from the bombastic bumblebee. Apparently, I'm not far from this ancient metropolis. West of the Mississippi, Joseph Smith selected the site for the town in July of 1839. The site was confirmed by revelation in March of 1841. The stake formed by October 1839, and the name changed to Zarahemla by August 1841. The stake had 750 members in 9 branches, with John Smith, the prophet's uncle, presiding. Other prominent members were George A. Smith and his wife, Bathsheba Smith. Joseph Smith discontinued the stake in January 1842 and replaced it with a branch. The town was absorbed by the city of Montrose after 1846. And that is just a basic history of what Zarahemla is. So now they think that Joseph Smith had some divine revelation, so he knew where that was. Let's see, they got a little further insight blurb here, and then we're going to move right on to what John shared with me, which is the apple of my eye right now for this topic. Further insight. More recent evidence gathered and published by men such as Brother Rod Meldrum and others, and endorsed by at least one well-known general authority on a 4-hour DVD. From DNA markers and the writings of Prophet Joseph Smith strongly suggest that the geography of the Book of Mormon was the North American continent all along, and has been understood by critics of the church and members alike, placing Zarahemla across the river from Nauvoo, which is really close to me too, according to a handwritten letter from Joseph to Emma, wherein he also refers to their walking across the plains of Nephites while on their trek to the border of the Lamanites, would then indicate the Mississippi River to be what the Nephites and the Lamanites knew as the River Sidon. Additionally, we have the scriptures themselves to place the site. So do we call the Mississippi the River Sidon if we're Mormon? Are there any Mormons out there, ex-Mormons? Anybody who can tell me if they actually do call the Mississippi Sidon when they're talking about like the modern river and stuff? That would be really weird. But I'm here for it if they do that. That's kind of funny. It's always like just words that Joseph Smith made up, right? They're just gobbledygook words. There's no this is a gobbledygook word anyway. I don't think it has any proper pronunciation. So let's look at this real quick though. I want to see their big picture here. Does it get bigger than this? No. All right, I think that's all we get out of that. So let's close out of there. So a lot of the people would, when they were trying to decipher where this place might be, would often put it in Mesoamerica and give the people of Zarahemla credit for these prominent Mesoamerican civilizations that did so good here, right around the Guatemala Peninsula, and where it makes this big U. It's the Fertile Crescent of the Western world, right? Where all these big kingdoms really started out and were doing well. Basically, they were in their late Bronze Age, but they were, I shouldn't say Bronze Age, but it was a comparable age. But they were using, it's cool because they used obsidian instead of, they had made an obsidian industry instead of a bronze industry. But they had copper and things like that, but gold, but they didn't smelt bronze. They did obsidian instead. That's probably because they didn't have very much access to tin in this region. Potentially, they could have, if we hadn't come in and wrecked their, it basically declared unofficial biological warfare on them. They would have seen what they would have done and where things would have went. Would have been really cool. But yeah, they weren't. They also were not the lost tribes of Israel as far as the genetics go, right? As far as we can tell. But that's where a lot of people want to put it, because that's where all the big stone fancy buildings that brown people could not, brown people couldn't have built those. Had to have white people help them. That's really just the narrative behind lost cities and things like that. And sorry, I bumped my mic again. Yeah, that's also the issue with that colonizer mindset. It's like, oh, who built these things? Because these savages couldn't have. Get over yourself. But yeah, there's a few different propositions about where it is. Here's one where it gives it in the in the Eastern Great Lake region, which is that's a take. It really narrows down what land they were in and what kind of environment they would have had in relation to each other. But it's like, however you want to take it. This is like Western New York and Canada and stuff. So there's people that present it all over the place. But with this Iowa thing that they're really banging their drum for. Yeah, here's one where it, what is this a map of? I can't even tell where this is a map of. Somebody recognize this landscape? I'm tilting my head because it says this is west and this is east, but I don't even know if that stacks up because some of these ideas are so crazy. I'm not going to speculate on where that is unless somebody else knows. If somebody can say, hey, that's this place, I'm going to be down for it. I'm going to be here for it. All right. And then here's just like a Tolkien style version of it, where they just make it into a fictional place, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, this is the wilderness, and yeah, that sort of trip, right? But that's probably the best way to look at it with what information we have. However, this just dropped. Now this does put me very near the because I'm in west central Illinois. The red line actually crosses over my house. Very close to the city of Zarahemla. So maybe we should go on a field trip there instead. We could go on a weekend trip there without even any issue at all. But we got a zoomed in version of this map up here, and I'm going to read this article. Okay, so let's look first. Zell, land of Zarahemla. So I'm guessing Zell is Cahokia, which is where the mountains are, right? Nauvoo is like right about here. Nauvoo, Nauvoo was when Joseph Smith got booted from New York. This is where he first went and settled and land claim in Illinois, and then they crossed the river and established like I said, the city of Zarahemla, but it was reabsorbed and whatnot. But as far as the ancient city goes, they're looking for it here. So let's explore why. Mormon geography, why some Latter-day Saints are digging for a lost city in southeastern Iowa. The Book of Mormon is largely set in the Americas, but the sacred places mentioned have never been identified. Zarahemla, a key metropolis from the book, has variously been positioned in North, Central, and South America. One group of Mormon archaeologists now believe the lost city may be found in southeastern Iowa. Where is Zarahemla? Mormons, otherwise known as the followers of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, have been looking for the lost city for decades. Some think they are now close to finding it in southeastern Iowa. Using LIDAR, which is like radar but uses a different wavelength, the Heartland Research Group has been scanning hundreds of acres of farmland outside Montrose, a small township on the banks of the Mississippi. The Book of Mormon, according to the HRG, Zarahemla counted about 100,000 inhabitants at its peak around 320 AD. That would have made it the largest city in North America at the time. No obvious above-ground structures remain. However, a population of that size would require a lot of fire pits for cooking and keeping warm. And that is exactly what the HRG hopes to find. A lot of fire pits, at least 1,700 years old. So, for most of history, the area of the Great Plains, where Iowa starts about 50 to 100 miles west of the Mississippi, it becomes a homogeneous plain. Here, like close to the river, where it's hills and valleys, it's like the Shire from Lord of the Rings. It's very lush and green and hilly and little forest and stuff like that. But once you get out 80 to 100 miles west of here, it starts to become real homogeneous. You can actually start seeing it when you get about just 30 or 40 miles out, but it really becomes the dominant landscape when you get further west, about 80 to 100 miles. And you start to see all other landscape kind of disappear, except for maybe some little forest around creeks and rivers and things like that. But anyway, the inhabitants of this region had never been subjected to agriculture, like ever. It had just been a great big plain for as long as since the end of the Younger Dryas. We'll say that since then it's been this big plain, just grasses growing, herds of buffalo, and then nomadic people that did temporary settlements back and forth on seasons as they followed their herd of prey or switched out to different prey, depending on which group you're talking about, because some of them did move into the Rockies and switched, or the closer to the Rockies, and switched to hunting smaller game in the colder months. Anyway, enough about that. The HRG we're gonna look into them in just a moment. Let me finish reading this though, because they're the major player here. So what is Zarahemla? If you're not familiar with the sacred geography of the Mormons, think Jerusalem with a dash of Atlantis. That's a good description. As a major city, the Book of Mormon, Zarahemla has great spiritual significance for the faithful, but has been located at various places in north, south, same thing that you just set up there. The Iowa starting line reported last November on the HRG's most recent expedition to Iowa. It's so weird to think about an expedition to Iowa. Did they talk to the indigenous people there? So far, the field work and data analysis has not yielded any conclusive evidence of a major prehistoric urban site near Montrose. Incidentally, just across the river from Nauvoo, Illinois, an important way station for the Mormons' westward trek to Utah. Destroyed the day Jesus died on the cross. Even if the dig turns up something significant, Native Americans certainly will object to a Mormon reading of what they can justifiably claim is their past. In other words, the obstacle to objectively establishing the existence of Zarahemla are pretty substantial. Yeah, trying to appropriate Native people's ancestral civilizations and in town centers as part of your woo-woo mystery cult is not cool. Not cool at all. Until that happens, all the evidence for the city's existence is in the Book of Mormon. In that text, Zarahemla is the name of a person from the old world and of a city founded by his people in the new world. In 3rd Nephi, the 11th of the 15th book that make up the Book of Mormon. Good grief, there's 15 books in the Book of Mormon. Give me a break. It says that on the day Jesus died on the cross, there were exceedingly sharp lightnings which never had been known in all the land. And the city of Zarahemla did take fire. So from that, I'm assuming that Zarahemla was a... Again, sorry about bumping that wire. I'll fix that after the show. There's a thing I got to put it in to make it stay. Sorry if I keep bumping it. It's annoying. What was I saying? Every time I bump that, I feel like I'm... Oh, yeah, it had been made out of wood, right? For the structures to just burn down. So we're not talking like a stone city. We're not talking like a city like what you find in the Mesoamerica's civilizations. But a city maybe constructed of logs. But the indigenous people who lived in this area were actually they did earth structures, right? They did mound building, and they did their mound building burials too. And there's mound exactly those people lived here where I am. Their mounds are there's along the top of the bluffs in Mississippi. There's about a 3-mile stretch with Native American mounds. All along it, we have parks with preserved sites. We have a place called Indian Mounds Park here, which is you can go see the mounds yourself. So it was very clear what type of people lived in this area in these times and what kind of structures they would have left behind. So if the same people lived in the area, because this is the same area, you would expect similar types of structures to be remaining. But you also got to consider that, again, I'm in the Mississippi Valley, very different biome than when you get out further west into the plains. So maybe they will find a camp where some nomadic people would set up shop to harvest their bison or something like that near this township. Maybe that's what Joseph Smith found when he staked his claim there. What follows is a litany of other terrible disasters: storms and earthquakes, cities drowned and destroyed, mountains and valleys transformed, all in the space of 3 hours. Untold numbers died. Then the land is covered by darkness that lasts 3 days and is so thick that no fires or candles can be lit to pierce it. Weird how all the native people who lived in this hemisphere at the time didn't have any record of that, and it did not do any damage to their structures and to their Mesolithic remains. They survived all those earthquakes and valleys turning over and mountains rising and falling. Those are some lucky monuments. I guess that could be a monument or a testament to their gods being more powerful than Jesus, because they were able to resist his atomic death throws. The atomic death throws of Christ were no match for the Aztec god Quetzalcoatlus as he coiled his rainbow-feathered body about his ancient cities and protected them from destruction. Yeah, I'm going to clip that. And in one place, they were heard to cry, saying, "Oh, that we had repented before this great and terrible day, and then would our brethren have been spared, and they would not have been buried in the great city of Zarahemla." On the third day, Jesus comes back from the dead. The darkness is lifted. Survivors of the cataclysm who gather in a nearby place called Bountiful are visited by a risen Christ who teaches them the core beliefs of what is to be their church. The mainstream Christians, sorry, I want to read that. The only way to truly do reparations for the indigenous people is support my nightmare reign of terror to join me in disrupting the current system of white supremacy. Here. Yeah, white supremacy sucks. To mainstream Christians, all this sounds exceedingly strange, but of course they do not accept the Book of Mormon, the full title, which adds another testament of Jesus Christ. Yeah, here's one that, I guess that's the Panama, where this is supposed to be. In the 1916 map identifies a portion of modern-day Colombia just below Panama. Yeah, okay. So that's what it is. Whatever theological singularity is contained. Can you pluralize singularities? Singularities? James Apperson, I was just talking about you earlier. I was like, that James Apperson. Not really, though. Good to see you this morning. Whatever theological singularities it contains, the Book of Mormon's most striking difference with mainstream Christianity is one of location. Both the Old Testament and the New Testament are set entirely in or near the Holy Land on the eastern shores of the Mediterranean. The Book of Mormon, engraved on golden plates in Reformed Egyptian and revealed by an angel named Moroni to Joseph Smith in 1820. His name was Moroni. He sounds like a mobster. Isn't that one of the villain gangs in like Gotham City? The Falcones and the Moronis? That's just what it makes me think of. Sorry, Angel Dude, your name sounds like a Batman gangster. All right, and it takes place largely in the Americas in the millennium, circa 600 BCE to circa 400 CE. Oh yeah. It recounts how Israelite prophet Lehi and others sailed across the Atlantic from the Middle East, giving rise to rival people in the Americas and the sacred history of their relationship to God. The foundational text of the Church of Latter-day Saints is rife with names of those people, their cities, and other places of significance, but none has yet been positively identified by objective archaeology. Yeah, so there's where it was. This one map was made. More precisely in the Chiapas, as proposed by John L. Sorensen. So here's Zarahemla. Why? Perhaps because of the centuries that have elapsed between the demise of the civilizations described in the book and the book's rediscovery and translation by Joseph Smith, an ocean of time vast enough to erase virtually any trace of that past, or perhaps the book's inspiration was less angelic. Mark Twain called it a tedious plagiarism of the New Testament, among other things. And its people and places were entirely made up. Yes, the answer is B. B is the answer. Mark Twain. Tell Mark Twain what he wins, Hive. Because I agree with Twain here. And the evidence that we should have, that we would expect from a ancient civilization, an ancient Semitic civilization in the Americas, is just not there. The way that they built things, the way that they lived, their way of life is not present in the Americas. There's no remains which seem to indicate a Semitic people was ever present, which is weird considering how present they are in Mesopotamia, where that's pretty much all you can find for large swaths of time are these people of these specific people groups, or remains of these specific people groups and their cultures and societies, and none of that rolls over. Yeah, there's aliens, definitely. James Aberson, always the aliens. Matching sacred topography to reveal geography. And this is also where you can call BS, because we have so many sites, right I said, right here where I live, that show who was living where during what time period. No Nephites. No, what was the other one? Lemonites or Limonites or no, none of these groups. No Nephites, no Limonites. I keep mispronouncing that one. It's on one of these maps here. I think it's on the North American one. What's the word I'm looking for? These people, the what are the people of Lehi called? Leonites? Can't remember. I know they're Nephites because they call them Nephites right here. But anyway, yeah. Getting back to where I was here. Whichever is the case, the Book of Mormon has saddled the religion it spawned with the curious task of attempting to match its sacred topography with real geography of the Americas, which is hilarious and fun to watch them do. A topological map of the Book of Mormon, like the one above, it is the map in shades of brown, is a fairly non-controversial way to start. It only shows the various places mentioned in the book as they relate to each other without attempting to link them to any actual terrain of the New World. On the map, we see landmass divided into three main parts: the first inheritance, the wilderness, narrows and otherwise, and the land northward. Some of the place names are direct borrowings from those of persons or places in the biblical world: Jerusalem, Ishmael, Aaron. Others have a strictly New World flavor: Zizram, Nephah, Shimelon. Those are very racist. What makes those, in referring to those as New World flavored, what makes these gobbledygook made up words New World flavored? What New World population uses this dialect? Please tell me in the comments below if you know. Zarahemla is located in the northwest on the Sidon River between Gideon in the south and the narrow neck of lands in the north. This takes a comprehensive scriptural approach to the lands in the Book of Mormon, places the land of Zarahemla in western New York State, in between Syracuse and Lake Erie. And I don't think this would have been kicking into Joseph Smith, but maybe it was when he was writing this. I think he intended to build it on the notion of a lost civilization out west, though, just because that was popular at the time. Joseph Smith wasn't coming up with this stuff whole cloth. There were Old West newspaper reports of different writers making up stories about finding lost cities out west and finding ancient civilizations and ruins of meccas and stuff like that. It was Jumanji. Yeah, it's essentially that. It's what colonizers call mumbo jumbo, which is to say just phonetically made up to sound like a indigenous population's dialect. It's funny because the people of Babylon, right? They got that done with their language too. They called it. That's why we get you're babbling when you just make up gibberish. You're just babbling. You're speaking the language of Babel. I guess that probably comes from the fall of the Tower of Babel more so than their actual language, though. That you're defecting from the root language group it's funny. Yeah, it's Skyrim. Yeah, that's kind of the feel it gets, right? It's like they're making up video game worlds, and this is just how they did it back then. Now you can go in Minecraft and build your fictional utopian city. Yeah, or you can explore Skyrim or anything like that. So, is there an ancient Mormon metropolis buried beneath the soil of southeastern Iowa? It's hard to prove a negative, so perhaps. But press X to doubt. Actually, I think I have that on here somewhere. Yeah, I do. Boop. There you go. Press X to doubt. Yeah. That's how the Hive do. And however, for Mormon place finders in the Americas, exhilaration followed by disappointment has been about as constant as it is for looking for the Philosopher's Stone. But still they go on, because if they can prove the existence of Zarahemla, the Book of Mormon itself will have been proven true. What motivates the diggers for the truth that may not be there? Faith. Or to translate that in more scientific terms, the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. Oh, yeah, but there's evidence of other people living there, though, right? Of the other people living in the region at the time. It's not like you can't go to these areas and you can go down to the river bottoms in any creek in Iowa and look around. You'll find the remains of the people that lived there and what their culture was like. They did those creek beds is where they would set down there and nape their tools, and you'll find waste deposits of broken, ruined. Because they do it. It was an industry that somebody would sit down there and just spend hours and hours just naping arrowheads and arrowheads and arrowheads, and all the chips and stuff just end up there on the among the rocks, and you can go find them, and it's really cool. And it'll include whole arrowheads too, ones that just got left behind or weren't quite right, things like that. It's pretty cool. Anyway, this is the Heartland research group that they're talking about, not accepting volunteers for clinical research trials. Is this really is this the same one? I think this must be something different. Here we go. That's the one I was looking for. Yeah. Yeah, this is Heartland Research Group right here, talking about finding Zarahemla and Phoenicians together in Lee County, Iowa. In the last year, we worked more than 3,000 hours on the restoration of the Phoenician ship replica. In the coming years, we intend to put at least 6,000 hours onto the project. So they're rebuilding this ship, right, in Montrose. The Mormons are. The Phoenician ship being built. Yeah, they're building the old timey way that they built it because they want to prove that you can get from here to the ancient from here with the ancient technology. Yeah, I don't know how that's going so far. This was August 2022, so it's not been that long ago. Looks like they got most of the hull done, but I don't know if they actually plan to take this down the Mississippi, through the Gulf of Mexico, across the Atlantic, into the Mediterranean, and then on into what would have been the Phoenician coast on the far end of that sea. Yeah, if they're planning on doing that, I'd like to actually chronicle that or watch that chronicle, but I don't know when it's going to happen because this doesn't look like it's coming along super fast, which is too bad. The replica ship is 65 feet long and was constructed at Ardwold Island, the site of an ancient Phoenician city-state just off the coast of Syria, by a Syrian shipwright named Khalid Hamoud, using traditional methods. So they're trying to replicate the ship that this dude built and build their own to prove that people from the Near East would be able to make it to the Midwest. Anyway, that has been Creation Watch for today. What did you guys think? The Book of Mormon, right? What a hoot that is. Ancient cities in North America? I don't think so. Not ancient cities of Eastern peoples anyway. Yeah, we have the biggest city in North America at the time of its discovery was Cahokia, and that's down by St. Louis. It's the middle of all this trade center. There's huge mounds down there. You can go see it. You can actually see it if you're crossing the river from St. Louis into Illinois. But I'm not recommending anybody just go over to East St. Louis and just start driving around because there is some the city has a bad reputation, so just be safe if you go down there. It is a dangerous city in this country. That's no joke, but there is a lot of history out there to explore. There are mounds, countless, throughout the Mississippi Valley, from Minnesota down to Louisiana. Mounds, and these mounds also extend. On the west coast, they generally stay within, or on the west coast, on the west banks, of the Mississippi, they generally stay within that 100 miles or so of the river, except for when you get further south and into the Ozarks, then it gets kind of mixed with a different culture of people down there that had different technologies that they were working with. But you go back to the east, though, and this culture extended all the way into the Great Lakes region and to Appalachia. I know some people don't like the way I say Appalachia, but that's how I learned how to say it in Missouri. So anyway, that is going to finish out Creation Watch for you. So if you're tuning in Wednesday night, thank you so much for sticking in there with me. And I appreciate you. Please remember to be kind and take care, and we will see you next time.
Dee-da-da-dee-da-dum. Joseph Smith was called a prophet. Dum-dum-dum-dum-dum. He started the Mormon religion. Dum-dum-dum-dum-dum.